Some of you are exhausted from being everybody's strong friend, and you're wondering why nobody shows up for you in the same way. And I'm going to tell you why, and it's going to sting. Simply because you trained them not to. Not because you're selfless or because you don't care, but because you spent years teaching everyone you don't need help, that you're the one that who has it together, that the relationship only goes in one direction. You might be the person who's answering every call. You show up depleted but smiling because you said you would show up and you want to hold up to that. You swallow your own struggles and say, I'm fine. And you see how quickly that came from me because I am guilty of this too. You frame your breakdown as just a tough week or I can do it, I can take care of it. Whatever phrasing you're telling yourself. And people believe you because you carry the weight so well. The phrase, you don't look like what you've been through. Hell, you don't look like what you're going through. Who was it? Patricia Bright. I don't know if the video is recent or a few weeks old, but um, she made a video about not looking like what she's been through or going through. And ultimately, it seems like she's going through a divorce from her marriage. I don't know. It's been so long, right? Um, and obviously, she looks great. So therefore, people just think, oh, you're fine, but you're not. And 2 years ago, I lost everything, my job, my relationship, my home. And out of the dozens of people that I've supported and call me their therapist, bestie, and all that stuff, so supporting them through their moments, only three showed up for me. And I'm so grateful because it's one of those things where it's quantity over quality. And I was so resentful when that initially happened. And I was furious until I realized I had trained them meticulously that our friendship was a service I provided, right? I really should have been charging a subscription or charging for therapy sessions, but I wasn't. And I was calling that friendship because I was seeing that as a way to justify them being friends with me, right? It's like I had to give them some form of value. So let me tell you how I changed that, right? Because again, 2 years ago, I was 28, like a licensed social worker. And even though I wasn't practicing clinical social work in that way, obviously I'm attracted to that and I lean into those practices, those questions, etc. And I have the training. So that obviously seeps in my friendships. And being the therapist friend seemed like, oh, okay, like this is the value I bring to relationships. So for a moment that felt really good until it didn't feel good. Until being useful, being needed did not seem like the badge that I wanted to wear anymore. Because being the strong friend, the therapist friend, the friend who can always help you through something, eventually you start believing that's the only reason why people want you around. And it comes too heavy. And then you start swallowing it. You start showing up resentful because it's like, yo, damn, like I have problems too. And I at some point had to realize I couldn't be mad at them because I didn't even have the muscle, honestly, myself, to even share what was going on with me. Because in my head, I was like, well, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. And even one of my really good friends, so as I mentioned, I lost my home and when I even lost my home, I just didn't have a home at that time. And I was staying with one of my really good friends and their dad stays with them and their dad was like, "Oh my God, is she gonna be okay?" And they were like, "Yeah, she's always okay." And like, I take that compliment because yeah, I'm pretty competent and I pride myself on my competency. But then I also realized that yes, that friend was there. And even though they saw my competency and they knew I would pull through, they were still there for me. And I really appreciate that. But the rest of my friends probably were just sticking to that single story. Shout out to Chimamanda Adichie, that single story of, oh, she's strong, she got it, she's good. And I was also sticking to that story of, I'm strong, I got it, I'm good. And luckily, I was able to open up to this friend and this handful of friends. But for the most part, the image I was putting out there was like, yes, people knew that I was unemployed. Yes, people knew that I currently didn't people, meaning my circle, knew that I was unhoused. And yes, they knew that I also had just left my relationship, but I was not sharing as much as I think maybe I could have been vulnerable enough for them to support me. So that realization broke something open because I had to think I need to rebuild myself differently. Once I get through this hurdle, I cannot continue in friendship where I've trained them to just see me as a service provider. I am not a SaaS tool, right? I am not BetterHelp or any of those therapy hotlines that you just call or chat and then they solve your problem. No, I am another human, and this is a friendship and a relationship. And I had to come to reconciliation with myself that moving forward, I needed to show up as a whole person, not just a helper, not just a competent friend, but all of me. And that has looked like me stepping back. Like I will not plan a trip. Like one of my friends wanted to go someplace and they were like, "Oh, like, are you gonna get the train tickets and the hotel and this and that?" I was like, "Are we not going to the same place? Like, do we not have the same resources?" Like, no, I'm not gonna do it. And one of my other friends just came on a trip with me. And I was also kind of adamant about that too. Like usually I would plan and put a whole itinerary together, but I was like, hey, here are all the options of what you can do. If you really want to do something, I will facilitate that and make that happen for you. But I no longer am willing to be that friend who says, oh, you want to do this? Here's a full itinerary. Here's everything booked. You just wake up and walk in, you know? And it feels good that my friends know that if they're around me, they can be cared for. But how do we make that a mutual conversation, a mutual relationship? And I realized the more I focus on understanding myself, so the more selfish I become, essentially, right? And I focus on my real skills, my boundaries, what fills me up versus what drains me, the better I become at showing up for others. Because now that like I'm tuned into like, okay, what do I actually like doing? And we can go and even down the pathway of zone of genius and zone of competence. Can I plan something for you really, really well? Can I execute really, really well? Yes. Can I show up for you and listen to you and give advice or just listen, whatever you need? Yes. And that's my zone of competence. But my zone of genius, maybe it's not planning, right? It's actually maybe talking about a book together. That is, and I don't know if I'm even equating this in the right way, but hopefully you're following me in there of leaning more into what am I good at? What do I like? And what makes me whole rather than bringing out certain parts of me to please a relationship, which then leads to resentment. And I can't be mad at anyone for it because I'm the one that's showing up. I'm the one that's raising my hand. I'm the one that's going the extra mile. So being me centered, if you will, to become more community centered and to become a better friend. Because I think, let's say, old me, if a friend called me and they were having a meltdown, I would drop everything, whatever I'm doing, I'll listen to the phone call, and I would put aside whatever I was going through to listen. Now I would pause and I'll check in with myself and I would say, I have 15 minutes now. At the end of that 15 minutes, I'm going to walk away from that conversation. Obviously, with empathy, obviously making sure that she's good in that 15 minutes was a venting session, a calming session, whatever she needed. But I cannot sit on the phone with you for 2 hours as we reiterate the same thing over and over again. And communicating that with that person too, right? So that way they understand what my boundaries are, what my lines are. And this can mean that sometimes you need a 2 hour session, but once we have a cadence enough of, hey, I'm sharing what I'm where my capacity's at, so I don't resent you, so we can have a real true friendship. So I can show up fully present, not distracted, not performing, not with a mask on. I think that's a much richer friendship for all of us. And then getting really specific at what I actually enjoy. And this is where the zone of genius comes in. So it's not only what am I good at? Yes, I'm good at planning, but do I actually want to put all this effort into doing this thing that may not pan out? For example, I remember planning out this trip, sent out the itinerary. Everyone said yes, they love it. We got there, and everyone decided to just stay at the resort and on the beach the whole time. The fruit farm, the local stuff, the cooking classes, they were just like, nah, we're good. The dancing class, no. And is it their fault or my fault, right? So no need to build up resentment when you're, bring up your full self then rather than putting a burden on you to make everything perfect. Just saying also allowing people to navigate their own lives and supporting them as they want you in there because we are all main characters in our lives. And I think if we accept that, then it becomes easier. Right. So I think clarity is really, really essential. It's such a gift for ourselves and for the people around us. And then clarity being a little bit more you-centered allows um, for you to ask for what you also need up front. And it might feel awkward and vulnerable, like you're asking for too much, you're being too visible, you're switching roles a little bit. But being me-centered isn't, I don't think it's selfish in the way that society likes to brand selfishness. I think it's knowing yourself well enough to show up honestly. And if you show up honestly, you build richer, stronger communities. So now I show up as whoever I actually am that day. And also I can have an honest conversation with my friends of who they need me to be. And then we can balance that out. So sometimes I am the helper. Sometimes I am the planner. And also sometimes I'm the one who needs help. And more, also the friend who just wants to laugh and not talk about anything deep because why are we holding on to so much? And I'm grateful to my friends because through it all, like we're learning and growing together. And we're all also in our own stages of learning, but we're all also recognizing that at this age, at this stage, none of us want a one-way relationship. Like that doesn't feel great for anyone involved, whether you're on the receiving end or the taking end, right? Um, and that space opens up a real connection where everyone brings their whole selves to the conversation, and it's just been really great. So if you've always been the strong friend, the capable one, the helper, and you're exhausted and you're stuck in one-sided relationships, getting clear on who you are and what you actually need changes everything. It changed my friendships, my work, the way I move through the world, but most importantly, my happiness, right? Because if you are happy, you can then exude happiness. So if you want more optionality in your life, clarity about who you are, and what you're here to do, I do clarity calls with my clients for exactly this reason. The link is in the description, so please reach out to me. And then whether we talk or not, you don't have to be everything to everyone. You just have to be clear about who you are. And that's enough. It's always been enough. Subscribe for more of these conversations. All right, talk to you tomorrow.